Welcome! Today we're going to unlock a theory that literally shaped the modern workplace as we know it, Taylor's scientific management. So let's just start with a question for you. Have you ever wondered if there's a single, perfect, most efficient way to do your job? Think about a barista making coffee. Is there one specific sequence of actions that's just faster and better than all the others? Well, that's the core idea we're exploring today. You see, about a century ago, most work was just based on guesswork, or what they called the rule of thumb. But one man, Frederick Winslow Taylor, he believed there was a much better, more scientific way, one based on precision and measurement, not just, a good guess. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by seeing how Taylor wanted to move from chaos to a real system. Then we'll dig into the key elements and principles of that system. After that, we'll take a look at its legacy and wrap up with a quick quiz to see what you've picked up. First up, from chaos to system. It's time to meet the man who basically wanted to engineer a better way for everyone to work. So what is scientific management? Well, Taylor's big idea, his framework, was all about analyzing and improving efficiency. A great way to think about it is like a mechanic taking an engine apart, piece by piece, just to understand exactly how it works and how to make it run better. Taylor wanted to do that but for jobs, to systematically analyze every single part to find that one best way. So how did he actually propose to do all this? Let's get into the how and look at the specific tools and elements that made up his system. The first crucial element is a really clear separation of planning from doing. Taylor's logic was pretty straightforward. Managers were best suited for the brain work, all the analyzing and planning. Meanwhile, workers could become incredibly efficient specialists by focusing purely on the physical tasks, without ever getting distracted by figuring out the process themselves. Now, this right here shows one of Taylor's more radical ideas. It was called functional foremanship. Get this. Instead of having one boss who kind of knows a little about everything, a worker would have 8 specialized bosses. The planning bosses, like the route clerk, would set up the work. And then the doing bosses, like the speed boss, would make sure you're working fast enough, while the inspector checked your quality. A boss for everything. And to make this all work, Taylor introduced some other key pieces. First, job analysis. This meant studying every single motion to cut out any wasted effort. Then, standardization, making sure everyone used the same tools and conditions for consistency. Next up, scientific selection, which is just a fancy way of saying you match the right person to the right job. And finally, the motivation, financial incentives. The idea was simple. If you work smarter and faster, you earn more. But for Taylor, and this is absolutely crucial, none of this worked without what he called a mental revolution. He really believed this was the most important feature of his entire system. It meant a complete shift in attitude for both managers and workers, moving away from that constant conflict and toward mutual cooperation and trust. Okay, so now we understand the how, the tools, and the different elements. Let's shift gears and look at the why. These are the fundamental principles that guide the whole system. Taylor's whole system really rests on these 5 principles. It all starts with the first one, replacing guesswork with actual science. From there, once you have a scientifically proven method, you can achieve harmony and cooperation, right? Because everyone is working together on the best-known process. This naturally leads to maximum output, which benefits the company and the worker, and that worker is continuously being developed to be as efficient as possible. See how it all connects? So what's the legacy of this century-old theory? I mean, how does it really hold up today? Of course, it wasn't a perfect system, not by long shot. While it was revolutionary, Taylor's theory has definitely faced some heavy criticism. A lot of people felt it basically turned workers into cogs in a machine. Critics argued it was just too focused on the factory floor, that it treated people like an engineering problem, and that it completely ignored the human side of work. Which leaves us with a final thought. Think about it. As we use data, algorithms, and AI to optimize every single aspect of our work, from delivery routes to lines of code, are we just seeing a high-tech return to Taylor's core principles? Are we all just trying to find that one best way? All right, you've seen the whole system. Now let's see what you've retained. It's time for a quick quiz. First question, who is known as the father of scientific management? That would be, of course, Frederick Winslow Taylor. Ready for question 2? What's the name of that concept where a worker gets instructions from 8 different specialized bosses? That one was functional foremanship. Question 3. Taylor's very first principle is to replace the rule of thumb with what? The answer is science. And for question 4, what did Taylor call that crucial shift from conflict to cooperation between managers and their workers? He called it the mental revolution. And our final question, what is one major criticism that's been leveled against Taylor's theory? A really key one is that it placed very little emphasis on the human needs of the workers. And that's our look at scientific management. Thanks so much for joining this explainer.